What is going on, YouTube people? Today, another edition of the weekly sports card market update. News, little nonsense, some charts and graphs. That's what we are here for every Sunday for almost 4 years now. I got to go back and look to see when the first weekly sports card market update was. I think it was in June. The channel had been going for a couple of months before I started firing this thing up. But we've got to be getting pretty close to the 4-year anniversary of the weekly sports card market update. I'll have to research that offline. Today, a little bit of local show action. I am on my way to the world famous Best Western, where the memory lane heist went down at. I am en route to that show as this video is probably going live. So I'll be roaming around there on Sunday morning. Had another show up in Medina that was a little bit of a bust. I did sell a couple cards. I did buy one raw Indians prospect first Bowman, nothing crazy. But it was a little overpromise, underdeliver on that show in particular. It was $5 to get in. It just, I don't know. It was kind of a sparse crowd. It was kind of promised as a card / comic / pop culture / toy show. And it was mostly just a card show and just not a lot of energy in the room. I don't know. Just the vibes were weird on that whole experience. I didn't end up going back on Sunday or Saturday, rather. It was a 2-day event. But the reports that I heard were meh at best. They had a trade night, which I actually skipped to go to dinner with my old pal, Gemrate. Gemrate is in town. So we hit the show together and hung out at dinner, talking shop. Hopefully I run into him some more over the next couple of months while he's in town. The Shipshawana show was this past weekend. I was unable to get out there due to the Monday nature of the show. Those ones are always tricky for me. We'll see what Labor Day. I don't know what they're doing yet, if they're going to do that on Sunday or Monday. If it's Sunday, hopefully I can make it out. If it's Monday, it'll be a little bit of a stretch. But I heard reports from there that trade night was packed and the show was extremely busy as well. Maybe slightly slower than the March show, but generally speaking, still extremely busy. We are heading into that summer months, vacations, graduations, all that sorts of stuff. Time and money get pulled in a lot of different directions this time of year. Curious, as always, what have been the vibes at your locals? Are they going strong? Crowd's still good? Or are they starting to tail off? Before we get too far, we have got to talk about ComC because they have something cooking. Our old friends over at ComC are running a crazy deal. 25% off your next submission. This is a limited time offer, so do not hesitate if you want to jump in on this. This ends June 17th. Submission has to be there by June 17th. 25% off, and it stacks with fresh pulls. So if you're ripping fresh wax and you send cards in, you could get 75% off your submission fee. Do note, you do need to write the promo code SUMMER25 down on the submission slip. So I did that video a couple weeks ago showing how to send cards in the ComC. When you get your little piece of paper that you print out that you stick in the box, make sure you write that SUMMER25 on there to take advantage of that. I would 100% be using this, but I just sent a bunch of cards to ComC. They're in the process of getting uploaded. I've already actually sold a decent chunk of that stuff that you see me all send in about 2 weeks ago. Already good, probably about 75% of that submission is already up and loaded, and I have a massive haul of cards coming from ComC. They ran that non-sports auction event a couple of weeks ago, and I was heavily involved. I spent a lot of ComC credit over the last few weeks on sports and non-sports cards. Let's go ahead and dive into the news. We got some updates on a couple of things that we have talked about. We got a bunch of stuff that we have not talked about, and then we will look at some charts and graphs. First up on the news front, PSA. We have their June specials. And I should note, since we're talking PSA, we will cover gem rate data in most likely tomorrow's video. So those numbers came out yesterday. We'll do a deep dive on those for Monday. But PSA grading specials is beginning of the month, which means new specials-ish. They are extending the 10X special So the $15.99, 10 card minimum, 1980 to present is still continuing. So that one is still going on. A new Pokemon special, $13.99 a card, $200 declared value or less. We also have an express grading special at $100, a super express grading special, and a ticket special. So nothing super, super crazy there. Spoilers, they don't need the work. They just did another absolutely massive month based off the gem rate data. So they are clipping along just fine, it appears. So, but that's actually a pretty fine special. $16 a card, 10 cards. Seems good. Hopefully I'll be able to get a submission out the door. I have a small pile of cards. I ended up selling a couple of them raw versus grading them. We'll see what happens. Maybe when or if we get Bowman Sapphire soon. More on that in a minute. And I have Bowman Mega Boxes on the way as well from Fanatics. Those should be delivered early next week. We'll probably do a little video review on that. Let's follow up on a story that I did a video on earlier in the week. And there's two new updates to this. This is that fake Jordan, well, potentially fake Jordan PMG that someone bought for $23,000 that got approved by eBay Authenticity Guaranteed. eBay and him and the buyer have spoken. They actually spoke on the phone. And basically what's going to happen now with this card is eBay and Beckett, they didn't talk directly, but kind of through him. This card is now, after it's been authenticated, which it has been, and it's in his hand, is now on its way to Beckett, where Beckett is going to re-review the card. And then we will kind of go from there to see what happens. And then basically eBay said, keep us in the loop with what Beckett says. He also gives an update that the seller, their $23,000 is on hold. So eBay has not paid that out yet. So what I think the most likely scenario here is Beckett's probably going to get bailed out. If this card is indeed fake, Beckett's going to get it. They're going to crack it open and look at it. And then they're going to put in writing, we messed up. This card is not authentic. Let's say that happens. They're going to send it back to him. He's going to send it back to eBay, most likely, with the documentation from Beckett. eBay is probably going to re-authenticate it and return it to the seller and then credit back his funds and then send the card back to the seller. That's my guess on how this is going to play out. So Beckett will get taken off the hook. The seller has not actually gotten his funds cleared yet. So essentially, all of this nonsense will go on. The buyer will get made whole by the $23K, and then the air quote fake card will go back to the seller. That's my prediction on how this is going to play out, which is probably best case for everyone involved. But like I said in that video earlier this week, this just goes to show you need to watch out for yourself. This guy had to go to war basically with these companies to get something to happen. It's a lot of extra stress in your life when you rely on these entities to take care of you. And there's still no guarantee that they're going to. This could still go all sorts of sideways. But I'm encouraged by the way that it is trending. We'll see. I don't know that I'll do any updated videos on this, but we'll probably talk about it again maybe next Sunday if there is more. It'll probably get bogged down now because he has to mail it to Beckett, and then it'll probably take them a little bit to make their ruling on it, but we'll kind of see what happens. But that's kind of the update on that. Next up, Bowman Sapphire dropped this week for Montgomery Club members. 1 box per person, $4.25 a box. People are going to freak out and say, oh my God, that's super expensive. Yeah, it's expensive. It was $400 a box last year. I remember buying it. Got mine for $400 a box. That was on a Dutch auction though, but I think most people got in at around $400. 1 autograph guaranteed per box, 3 colored parallels per box. So from a rip perspective, it's probably going to feel good. Like you're going to have that endorphin rush of that chase in a lot of packs between the auto and the parallels. This is not hit for the mainstream yet. I'm guessing it's going to drop sometime this week. I'm guessing it's going to sell out nearly instantly. If you're thinking about quick flipping the boxes, you probably can, but you're probably not going to make a killing. There's 44 currently listed on eBay. They've been selling in the low 500s to 550-ish. when you consider you're paying $4.25 a box, and then you get hit with taxes, let's just call it $4.35, $4.40 a box, depending on shipping, if you have to pay shipping or not from Topps. You sell it on eBay for, let's call it $5.50. You're going to lose 10 to 12% right off the get in eBay fees. So you're maybe making $50 a box, give or take. And then Uncle Sam's going to want his cut. That just doesn't seem worth it to me. Now, from a rip perspective, the class is a little but this is probably going to be a fun box to rip. Sapphire is typically a very fun box to rip. You're probably going to get punched in the face. Keep that in mind. But, you know, that's the gamble that you take. If I can get some, I would like to get 2 or 3 of these. And I would probably open most of those. We'll see. We'll see if I can be able to catch it when they go up for stock. But I will try to get a couple of these to open up on the channel. I genuinely enjoy opening Sapphire. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some charts and graphs from our good old pals over at Market Movers. Link in the description down below if you want to toy around with your own charts and graphs. First up, Market Pulse. New month. Let's check in. Market Pulse is a tool in Market Movers that kind of allows you to bundle cards together in groups. SCI puts together an SCI 500. They did one in 2023. They did an updated version in 2024. And I like to look at both of them just to kind of get a vibe check on how things are kind of going overall from a ups, downs, all around perspective. This is running since January 1st, 2024 through today. And you can see as of right now, we are still above the Mendoza line. Now, we're not going to the moon, but we're not going to zero either. That being said, we were on a little bit of a downward trend throughout May, but it looks like it picked up a little bit towards the end of May. I'm wondering how much of that could be Luka bumps, Tatum bumps, with them moving on to the NBA Finals. More on that in a minute in the charts and graphs side of things. But generally speaking, and you know, I've been saying this for a while now, price-wise, we're not seeing wild downward swings. We're still seeing some stuff pop off, like, you know, Anthony Edwards went nuts there for, you know, a couple of days. More on that in a minute. Lucas stuff is spiking because of the NBA Finals. Tatum stuff, Brown stuff, etc. That's the kind of be expected. On the downside, it's mostly been players that are playing extremely poorly. You know, a lot of the baseball prospects came up and dudded out this year. Their stuff's down. Now, their stuff's not in the SCI 500 most likely, but just generally speaking, your normal everyday stuff doesn't seem to be jumping all around all over the place anymore unless there's something justifying it. So things feel a little bit more stable than normal. Now, there's still some concerning things going on out there. That's probably a topic for a video for another day to kind of keep an eye on for the long term, or the medium to long term. But generally speaking, card prices seem to be fairly stable-ish for the already established stuff. Let's kick things off looking at basketball. Luka, the golden boy of the hobby. Possibly the player that got the ball rolling to begin with. If you remember back, card excitement started building pre-pandemic, and it was Luka's sophomore season. The very beginning of that NBA season, he was going absolutely ham. I think he averaged a triple-double for like the first month of the season, month or two. His prices started really climbing on his rookie cards. That led us into the pandemic, and the rest is history. Luka stuff, this is over the last 30 days, has been climbing. His Silver Prism is back up to $2,000. His Opticalo PSA 10, one has not sold for that for a few days, is sitting at about 800. I would imagine the next one to go off the board would probably be closer to 9. The Mosaic 2018 Prism Mosaic base is up about 50%, and his courtside base is up about 62%. So basically, generally speaking, his stuff over the last 30 is up 50% or more across the board. Interesting pop counts on these. Just kind of always something to file away. You know, demand matters just as much as supply does. But Luka Silver PSA 10 pop count is just under 2,300. The Optic Holo PSA 10 is around 350. The Mosaic, just the base Mosaic, I've always been a big fan of that card, around 500. And the sneaky one of the bunch, the Select Courtside base, coming in at around 250. I also always really like the image on that card. I don't know if I have an easy way to pull it up. Yeah. I've always really liked the image on that card. Now, there is a silver version of this that sells for astronomical sums of money. But the base version is a very, very nice card. This was before Select got absolutely decimated by our old friends over at Panini. But that Select Courtside base is an awful nice card if you could track one down. My personal fave is the Optic Holo. I had the pleasure of owning multiples of these in PSA 9s over the years. But the silver, back up to the $2,000 mark as we head into the NBA Finals versus the Celtics, which should be a very, very entertaining season. Speaking of those Celtics, same time frame over the last 30 days. Not as much movement here for the headliner in one Jason Tatum. Only a 12% increase. Basically flirting with $1,000. This card had been around 800 forever. The one that has seen the most percentage gain is one Mr. Jaylen Brown. He is up almost 70% on his silver PSA 10 over the last 30 days, as he has kind of had a little bit of a breakout so far these NBA playoffs, both offensively and defensively. And it'll be fascinating to kind of see which one of those two dominates the NBA Finals, or if it's more of an even workload. Dallas, the cliche thing to say is this is not a great matchup for them, as the Celtics are about as well equipped as any team to kind of deal with Luka and Kyrie, with Tatum and Brown and Holiday and White. They got Porzingis coming back. We'll see what happens. Boston is the heavy favorite. I will be strongly rooting for Dallas just because of the Kyrie factor, the Luka factor, and it's just in my nature not to like a Boston team. It's kind of the way it works around here. So, though the Celtics are favored, I will be heavily backing the Mavs. I will go ahead and put a prediction out there that I think that they can pull this off. I just do not trust the Celtics team. This will really be a big moment for Tatum. If he could like really kind of imprint himself on this NBA Finals to kind of level himself up, I think that would be really big for him. If the Celtics come out and Celtics around again, and he plays meh, this could really undercut his prices. I think Tatum's stuff probably has the most to lose out of the already baked in prices on stuff. Luka losing to the Celtics isn't going to, I mean, his stuff will probably drop, but it's not like the end of the world. They're not favored to win. The Celtics team is really good, and Luka's team will be around the run for a little bit. Next up, Luka's running mate, Kyrie. His stuff has also seen a very big increase. This is just his base Prism. I chose this because it transacts on a fairly regular basis, and some of his stuff is very, very low pop count because it's from 2012. His base Prism is up 50% over the last 30 days. Under 1,000 population on his PSA 10 Prism, that 2012 Prism. Not a ton of it out there. His silvers have also gone way up. Just very few transactions on those, as they do not pop up very, very often. But Kyrie stuff, way, way up. Glad to see it. Let's talk about the Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards. The roller coaster ride continues. He is now back down to under $1,000 now that they have been eliminated by the Mavericks. Obviously, he had the massive run-up with the games against the Nuggets, and then, you know, had the series against the Mavs and then tailed off. And you can see those up downs all around kind of throughout the drama of the West playoffs. And now we kind of get into settle in mode. So it's kind of like, where does his prices kind of settle in at? He is young. He is very good. He was exposed a little bit against the Mavericks. Maybe, you know, people put the anointing oil away there a little bit, but he is definitely one of the future faces of the league. That is for sure. But this is where we get into where, you know, real life team building can affect these guys greatly, because the Timberwolves have some real serious questions to figure out regarding their cap situation. They're going to be in a little bit of salary cap hell, especially with Cat's contract on the books. Speculation has already begun about him potentially getting traded, and if they could kind of retool the team a little bit there and also save a little bit of money. But very critical offseason for the T-Wolves. They definitely have momentum, but the West is good, man. And there's going to be teams coming back next year. Like, the Grizzlies were non-existent. The Rockets are coming. There's a lot of NBA or a lot of good young NBA teams in the West and a lot of aging teams in the West. Not that the T-Wolves are aging, but the larger context of their roster could potentially cause some problems for Ant in the near term. Now we'll see what they end up doing with Cat and if they could kind of retool things around that. But interesting. This is going to be a fascinating NBA offseason. Absolutely fascinating. We got the Paul George stuff. We got whatever the Cavs are going to end up doing. Whatever happens with this Cat situation. A whole bunch of stuff is going to be playing itself out over the coming months. And before we even get there, we have what I hope, please be an amazing NBA Finals, regardless of who wins or not. Just give us 6 or 7 really good games. The West playoffs have been great throughout. The East playoffs, not so much. Been a little bit of a clunker. Let's talk a little baseball. One, Mr. Acuna sadly tore his ACL in the opposite knee. His card prices actually have not fluctuated that much yet. Still not a lot of volume. A lot of people are definitely holding. So I don't have good data on first Bowman autos. Maybe we'll have some stuff filter through by next week. But his more day-to-day Topps Chrome stuff, his 2018 refractor hasn't really changed at all. It's stayed flat at 125. His pink refractor down 5%. That's nothing. The prism refractor down about 13%. Also not really a ton. His bat down hasn't sold in a couple of days, so I'm still kind of real curious what that one ends up at when all this is said and done. I still think that kind of dips below 600, but we'll see. So far, it hasn't dropped, as people are not panic selling on one Mr. Acuna yet. But we'll keep an eye on this as the weeks go on to see if we get some movement on his stuff. That is still a pretty recent thing, and sometimes it takes a few days for things to kind of flush themselves out. But a lot of people have money tied up in Acuna. Maybe a lot of people are just going to hold. I have noticed an uptick in Acuna sales posts in like Facebook groups, so I'm almost wondering if people are trying to go that route and move stuff that way rather than just settling for, all right, no one's giving me the offers that I want. Screw it. 99-cent auction. Let it rip. So we might still be in denial mode when it comes to one Mr. Acuna's stuff. Also on the baseball side of things, very disappointing year out of one Corbin Carroll. His first Bowman auto is down over 50%. This is over the last 90 days, so this takes us back to early March. Obviously had a fantastic rookie year. There was some concerns in the spring about shoulder issues with him coming into this season and needing maybe some potential work done to get that fixed. Scared me off of him in fantasy for the prices that he was going for. I like the player, but so far this season, he has been god-awful. His first Bowman is down to around just under $400. I even saw some that sold in the 380s. So you can get some real deals on his stuff if you believe. If it is indeed a shoulder issue and he has to wait till the offseason to get it fixed, you might be able to wait towards later in the season to potentially scoop up some deals on him if the struggles continue. But this is the type of thing you got to look for. No one wants to buy Corbin Carroll right now. Nobody wants his stuff. Everybody wants, the guys going to the moon. Everyone wants to buy on the upswing because it feels good. You don't want to buy when it's in the basement. But honestly, whether it's Corbin Carroll or not, these are the type of players that if you want to risk it for the biscuit, if you will, that you should keep your eyes on. It's the whole, when everyone wants it, look the other way and go buy the stuff that no one's talking about. Last but not least, Aaron Judge, absolutely on fire. As of time of recording, he was leading the league in home runs. He had a home run to put himself in the front again. He has been on an absolute tear all season long as that Yankees offense looks absolutely fantastic. Speaking of which, Jason Dominguez is tearing it up on his rehab assignment down in the minor leagues. There's really nowhere to play him, so I'm not sure what they're going to end up doing there. It feels like they have to try to get him on the roster. He is crushing the baseball. The Yankees as a whole are murdering the baseball. And Judge's stuff has been pretty flat. This is his first Bowman. We have BGS 9. I use BGS 9.5s here because those transact more often, just given the era of the card. His base first Bowman is at 1.4K, and his refractor is at 2.1. This is another one of those reminders, kids, that when you look at your hot young prospect that their stuff's selling for an astronomical sum of money, like a Wyatt Langford, like a Walker Jenkins, who is the new hot thing everybody wants to get their hands on. This is what Aaron Judge's stuff is selling for. An absolutely monster of a Major League Baseball player, an MVP winner, leading the league in home runs again, and this is what his stuff goes for. Just kind of file that one away and let that marinate for a minute when you're chasing these Bowman prospects. Listen, it's fun. I get it. But some of the prices that these guys end up going for, yikes. And then this is what the established guys go for. So just got to keep that in mind. That's all I got for you boys and girls today. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. If you stayed along this long, two things I want to remind you of. One, and I don't mention this enough, I do have a Discord channel that I run. The link is in the description down below. It is free to join that. Come hang out. Come chat. Two, I am curious, and once again, I don't know how many people are still hanging on to the very end here. Is there interest for a way too early fantasy football best ball draft? I've been thinking about spinning one up. I've been getting the itch as a way to, I really like using the best ball drafts as kind of practice for my real deals. I know it's way too soon, but I kind of might want to get one fired up if there are people interested in doing it. Probably just be like a $5 or $10 thing like normal best ball on Underdog. If you're interested in that, fire away in the comments down below. If enough people pick up on it, maybe I'll fire something up for next weekend. That's all I got. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Probably gem rate data tomorrow. Peace.